We are leading in a world that no longer plays by yesterday's rules. The problem is not that change is coming, the problem is that change is already here, and most leaders are still using playbooks designed for a finished game. We were taught to win, to beat the competition, to hit the target, to celebrate the quarter. But the 21st century doesn't reward short-term winners. It rewards those who can stay in the game, because leadership today is no longer about being the best in the world. It's about being the best for the world, consistently, sustainably, and over time. Markets will shift, technology will disrupt, titles will expire, strategies will fail. What lasts is not the plan, what lasts is the cause. The leaders who will thrive in this century are not obsessed with the scoreboard. They are obsessed with building something worth protecting, something that outlives them. This is not about how fast you grow. It's about how long you endure. This is the infinite game. And the question is no longer, how do we win? The real question is, how do we lead so the game never ends? There is no finish line, because leadership was never meant to be a race you complete. It is a responsibility you carry. Many men are conditioned to chase the moment of arrival, the promotion, the title, the financial milestone, believing that once they reach it, pressure will ease and fulfillment will follow. From the inside, this creates a constant tension to prove worth through outcomes. From the outside, women often see something different. Men exhausting themselves to win battles that never actually end, confusing progress with peace and motion with meaning. Men are taught early to measure value through victory, which makes stopping feel like failure. The modern world reinforces this by rewarding speed, dominance, and visible success, while quietly ignoring the cost. Psychologically, this traps men in a cycle where forward motion becomes survival rather than choice. Women watching this pattern often recognize the emotional toll sooner. The burnout, the emotional distance, the silent fear of falling behind, but struggle to interrupt a system that praises men for enduring pain rather than questioning the rules. Progress without pause feels productive, yet it slowly erodes trust, health, and relationships. Men feel the pressure to provide certainty in an uncertain world, while women feel the instability created when leaders chase the next win instead of building something resilient. The absence of a finish line means leadership demands stamina, not sprints, and emotional regulation becomes as critical as execution. What looks like strength on the surface can become fragility underneath when rest and reflection are seen as weakness. Forward is not about acceleration, it is about direction. Men lead best when they understand that consistency beats intensity, and women lead best when they help redefine strength as endurance rather than domination. The infinite game rewards those who protect their people, their values, and their humanity over time, even when no one is keeping score. Chasing short-term wins feels urgent because men are wired to see success as immediate and measurable. From a young age, performance, achievement, and results are celebrated more than patience, consistency, or foresight. Men internalize the idea that proving themselves today ensures security tomorrow, but this mindset often blinds them to the consequences that ripple far beyond the scoreboard. Women observing this pattern notice the cost sooner, relationships strained, trust eroded, and long-term goals sacrificed for quick victories that fade as fast as they are won. The pressure to win now can make men overlook the systems they are building and the people who depend on them. Quick decisions driven by ego or fear can feel strategic in the moment, but they often create cracks that grow over time. Women perceive the tension between the pace of action and the need for stability differently. While men may see a deal closed, a promotion gained, or a metric achieved as proof of competence, women often see the aftermath, corners cut, commitments broken, and opportunities for deeper connection ignored. Short-term thinking also reshapes the way men define success internally. Men become reliant on external validation, a pat on the back, a bonus, or public recognition, rather than cultivating internal confidence rooted in purpose. This reliance creates cycles of anxiety, eye, restlessness, and the compulsion to keep proving worth. Women, attuned to patterns and emotional landscapes, notice when ambition overrides alignment, when drive becomes disconnection, and when the pursuit of immediate gain undermines shared long-term growth. The paradox is that what feels like progress can actually be regression. Men pursuing only instant results may achieve accolades but sacrifice resilience, vision, and the foundation necessary to endure uncertainty. Women recognize that sustainable leadership is built not on what can be won quickly, but on what can be nurtured, preserved, and carried forward through challenges, uncertainty, and time. Purpose outlasts strategy because it gives meaning to every action, while strategy only maps a path. Men are often taught to focus on execution, metrics, and tactical wins, believing that skill and effort alone will guarantee success. This creates a mindset where the destination is more important than the journey, and where the how overshadows the why. Women, observing this behavior, often notice a different pattern. Men can achieve impressive results yet appear disconnected, anxious, or unfulfilled because actions without purpose feel hollow, no matter how effective. Men are wired to seek control and certainty, and strategy offers a sense of security. They can plan, predict, and measure outcomes. Purpose, on the other hand, requires vulnerability and reflection. It asks men to look beyond performance and consider act, legacy, and alignment with values. Women frequently act as mirrors in these situations, highlighting when a man's accomplishments are impressive but emotionally or ethically misaligned. They sense when achievements are empty and when leadership is transactional rather than transformative. Purpose creates resilience in a way strategy cannot. Men driven only by plans and tactics crumble when circumstances change, when markets shift, or when competition evolves, because strategies are finite and brittle. Women notice that those who lead with purpose remain adaptable, engaged, and steady, even amid chaos. Purpose becomes the compass that guides decisions, inspires loyalty, and sustains commitment when strategies fail or need to pivot. Men who embrace purpose cultivate energy, passion, and influence that outlive any single plan. Women, attuned to emotional currents and relational dynamics, see that purpose fosters trust and connection, elements that strategies alone cannot generate. While tactics can win battles, purpose wins hearts, loyalty, and endurance. Purpose outlasts the immediate horizon, giving men the clarity to act meaningfully and women the assurance that leadership is consistent, authentic, and enduring. Leadership is a responsibility, not a rank, because true influence is earned through care, courage, and consistency, not by a title on a business card. Many men grow up equating leadership with authority, the corner office, the promotion, the ability to make decisions that others must follow. This creates a mindset where power is something to wield rather than a duty to uphold. Women observing this often see the tension clearly. A man may have authority, yet his team feels unsupported, unheard, or disengaged because leadership without responsibility is empty. Men are conditioned to measure success by control and recognition, believing that being in charge is the pinnacle of achievement. This can lead to a transactional approach, directing rather than guiding, instructing rather than inspiring. Women tend to perceive leadership differently. They notice relational dynamics, emotional safety, and the subtle ways influence is exercised. When a man leads as a rank, the environment may feel competitive or intimidating, and trust erodes quietly over time. Responsibility shifts the lens entirely. Leadership becomes about protecting the people around you, nurturing growth, and making decisions that serve a cause greater than personal gain. Men who embrace this responsibility often experience a psychological shift. Their value is no longer tied solely to achievements or status, but to their ability to create environments where others thrive. Women can sense this shift immediately, recognizing men who lead responsibly as more grounded, reliable, and emotionally intelligent. Leadership as responsibility also reframes failure and success. Men who equate rank with leadership often fear mistakes because they equate them with loss of status. When leadership is seen as a responsibility, mistakes become lessons, challenges become opportunities, and influence becomes relational rather than positional. Women often notice the difference in culture. Teams led by men who take responsibility feel empowered, committed, and safe, while those led by men who cling to rank feel constrained, anxious, and transactional. Building teams that choose to stay starts with understanding that loyalty cannot be commanded. It must be earned through trust, respect, and shared purpose. Many men approach leadership with a results-first mentality, believing that high performance alone will secure commitment. They focus on output, deadlines, and metrics, often overlooking the human element that motivates people to stay. Women, however, tend to see the unspoken signals. When team members feel valued, heard, and supported, they remain engaged and willing to invest their energy. But when leadership is transactional, the strongest performers quietly drift away. Men are often driven by competition and achievement, which can create environments where winning becomes more important than relationships. This approach can foster short-term success but long-term attrition. Women frequently notice the subtle disengagement early, a decline in collaboration, an increase in stress, or a loss of creativity. They recognize that human connections, the emotional infrastructure of a team, are just as critical as skill or talent. Men who ignore this risk building teams to deliver results but lack resilience, adaptability, and loyalty. Creating a team that chooses to stay requires leaders to invest in purpose, alignment, and mutual trust. Men need to see that leadership is not about dictating tasks, but about enabling people to contribute their best selves consistently. Women often act as mirrors, highlighting when leadership is supportive versus controlling, when empathy is present versus absent, and when the team feels included versus isolated. Teams thrive when leaders intentionally cultivate an environment where people feel safe to innovate, challenge, and grow without fear of reprisal. Retention is not a policy, it is a culture. Men who understand this see that their influence is measured not by how many reports they have, but by how willingly their team follows, even when the work is difficult or recognition is scarce. Women notice the difference immediately. Loyalty emerges when people are trusted, guided, and inspired, rather than coerced. Leadership that prioritizes human connection over transactions creates a magnetic environment where talent chooses to stay, contribute, and grow. A team that chooses to stay reflects a leader who values consistency over control, purpose over prestige, and relationships over short-term wins. Men must recognize that their psychological need to prove themselves can unintentionally push people away, while women often reinforce the importance of emotional intelligence, inclusion, and long-term commitment. When leadership balances these perspectives, the team becomes resilient, cohesive, and dedicated, choosing to stay not because they have to, but because they want to. A legacy is not measured by trophies, titles, or accomplishments. It is measured by what endures after you are no longer in the room. Many men are conditioned to define success through visible milestones, promotion, wealth, recognition, believing that leaving a mark requires leaving evidence. Psychologically, this creates a drive for control and immediate impact, a need to prove competence, and a fear of being forgotten. Women, observing this pattern, often notice a disconnect. Men achieving remarkable feats may still leave behind fragile systems, disengaged teams, or relationships that unravel because accomplishment alone does not create continuity. Men are taught to prioritize action over reflection, results over resonance, and efficiency over empathy. This mindset can generate short-term admiration, but often fails to produce enduring influence. Women, however, tend to view leadership through relational and long-term lenses. They notice the subtleties, whether people feel empowered to carry the vision forward, whether values are consistently reinforced, and whether behaviors and culture persist without oversight. Legacy is not built in moments of brilliance, but in the small, repeated acts of integrity, encouragement, and foresight that shape an organization and its people. True legacy requires men to shift us, from self to system, from winning today to ensuring tomorrow. Men must understand that their influence is strongest when they equip others to thrive independently. Women often serve as the compass in these scenarios, signaling when leadership fosters growth, when it inspires trust, and when it sustains motivation. Without this awareness, the structures men build, however impressive, can collapse once they step away, leaving achievements as monuments rather than foundations. Psychologically, the men who leave a lasting legacy embrace humility and patience. They recognize that enduring impact comes from nurturing people, embedding values, and cultivating resilience. Women intuitively perceive the difference between leadership that commands attention and leadership that fosters ownership. A leader focused on legacy measures success not by what he can control, but by what continues in his absence. Legacy is the ultimate test of leadership because it transcends ego. Men often struggle with this because ego demands visibility, recognition, and immediate validation. Women, in contrast, often encourage reflection, perspective, and relational awareness, highlighting that the true measure of a man's leadership is not how much he achieves, but how capable, motivated, and aligned his people are to continue the work without him. When men internalize this truth, they begin to lead not for applause, but for endurance, not for themselves, but for the generations that follow, creating influence that lasts far beyond their presence.